We are back live on the Audible Angle. It's an hourly show. We record 24/7 and put out millions of videos constantly. So be sure to subscribe, follow us on X, do the stuff, like the stuff, comment on stuff. Early, some folks like us to get into it really quick. I got one thing I got to get off my mind, man. This is how good the golf simulator went on Saturday. It went so good that today I went and started doing yard work. Basically cleaning up the winter dog poop. And I even started picking up some of the leaves we didn't get at the end of the year because I'm so pumped. I was so good at golf. I'm so pumped for golf that I want to get that stuff squared away with early, so it's out of the way for that first open weekend, which could be next weekend. I thought I heard some rumblings about that. I have the ice show. Come out to Brooklyn Park Community Center, see me skate around and try not to fall because I actually don't know how to skate. Urby, anything quick, 30-second exciting update?
Got nothing, man. Best week, one of the second best week. We're going into it. We're kind of in it, but this coming week is one of my favorite weeks of the year. I know you're going to try to talk me out of it, but I'm looking forward to that. Let's kick it off.
Just one clarification. NCAA championship week. You're talking about men's basketball, not the wrestling Big Ten championship that wrapped up today, correct?
Correct.
All right, moving on. Let's get
ball on my mind.
Let's get into b-ball. We broke it out for weeks. Longtime listeners, they know. We laid out the perfect plan for the Wisconsin Badgers, Irby's own Wisconsin Badgers, to artfully finish the season with less losses than they ended up with. And it all worked out perfectly to plan. They're supposed to have 5 losses and be in the top 4 and get the long rest heading into the Big Ten tournament. They did their part of the work in the last game of the year, beating up on Purdue. So that loss to Oregon hurt, but the feel-good is handling Purdue at Purdue. How did that game go for you? Well, what did you see that you loved?
Well, actually, Dilly, that's it. Let's take note of this game because Wisconsin, the Badgers were playing that game at Purdue, which is a very difficult place to play. Feels like those students are on top of that hoop. That is where inevitably the Badgers finish in the second half. They were shooting free throws. A lot of those games in Purdue Stadium come down to free throws. Wisconsin was playing that game without Winter. Nolan Winter is out with an injury. We're not sure how long he's going to be out, but he was not playing. We were down to basically 2.5 big guys. And we've been well chronicled on our show here that you need big guys to be good, and not having enough big guys is a bad deal. So we went with Belioskis, and we went with the Aussie, Austin, and we competed. It was a back-and-forth game, a very good game, of which, Dilly, I got to watch at the Great Dane. I'm sure you've been there. I was at the Great Dane down in Madison, enjoying a weekend there. What a great weekend it was, but it's nothing better outside of being at the Kohl Center for a home game. But for an away game, it was nice to sit down, hunker down, and watch the Badgers beat the Shakies off of Braden Smith, the worst point guard in NCAA history.
And the oldest. Been there 10 years.
Yeah, this is his 12th year of eligibility. It's amazing. But the Wisconsin Badgers, Dilly, we'll get to it, but there's a primary reason they won. But boy, is it nice to beat Bucky on top. We talked about that. It's a big game.
Now I'm going to take some of my knowledge and put it to the test here a little bit. I'm guessing they won because they made 3-pointers. Is that accurate?
That is an accurate statement, and I appreciate you listening to the episodes and listening to my rants. The Badgers had been averaging, they got it up to 11 3-pointers per game is what they were making. We talked about it in their loss against Oregon. They shot 45 of them and made 12. That's not enough. No, I'm sorry. They made 14. That's not enough. Their average is 11, Dilly. In the first half alone, the Badgers made 12 out of 22 threes. They were winning by a couple of points in that game against Purdue, but the reason they won the game is in the second half. And I talked to the person I was watching the game with. I said maybe if we can make 5, because we shot and made 12 in the first half. If we can make 5, we've got a chance in the second half. They ended up making 6 for a total of 18, record-breaking for the Badgers. They made 18 threes. That's the reason we won, and some timely free throws. The Badgers played a gutty game that was built for March, and they played it in March. But when we talk about playing in March, that means NCAA tournament. I like what I saw against the Badgers. Dilly, interesting stat. Bucky has played 4 straight top 25 teams and won those 4 straight games. They kind of bookend these darn Big 12 top 10 games, top 15 games that they're winning with a lame duck game on the road against Ohio State and Oregon. But it was a good finish to the regular season for Bucky to have some momentum going to the Big Ten tourney.
I got big news for you. We do broadcast live. We react on the fly, even if we don't know how to say the words. We were lamenting earlier, and my next question was going to be, can someone please tell us what the hell is going on with the Big Ten tournament? How do they not have the schedule ready? How do they not have a bracket out? I am live on the Big Ten website, and we checked this 20 minutes ago. Was not up. It just had it had a big text blob of the 11 seed plays the blah, 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 and it's out now. We tipped things off on Tuesday. These poor suckers at the bottom of the bracket, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got to win 6 days in a row to win the tournament. I mean, why just don't even have them in the tournament? I mean, for God's sakes, man, what are we doing? Penn State is going to go on a 6-game winning streak on consecutive days? I don't think so. So we're looking at the bracket. Let's jump right into it. We see these teams at rest until Friday. Michigan, Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan State. We knew that was happening. And the teams, you get a couple days extra rest on Thursday if you're Ohio State, Wisconsin, Purdue, or UCLA. The interesting thing is, because we did kind of talk about gaining traction in a tournament, either for seeding or for some of these lower-ranked teams, Indiana, USC, Iowa. We've been talking about, in, out, whatever. Some of these teams have more opportunity. If Wisconsin, the way the bracket shapes up, you'd expect them to end up playing, probably USC or Washington. You say, well, you get your win there, then they got a tough game against Illinois. It's their second game of the tournament. They could get knocked out in that game. That's the toughest game on Friday. Obviously, it's the 4-5 game of Friday, but it's kind of and then maybe that's why I'm going to say that I had limited excitement. It limits my excitement because a lot of these things are set in stone already. Unless someone gets hot and makes a big run, Wisconsin, by all rights, they should beat whoever, Washington or USC, and then, then what? They lose a game they should, won't be favored in against Illinois. Does that affect their seed? Or do you just say they are who we thought they were, 6, 7 seed, whatever?
It's a really good question, Dilly, and I'll answer the question, but I want to back up. One of the games that, if you remember, we talk about, hey, we win a big game and then we lose a big game. One of those games in the regular season that we lost that we should have won was that USC game. If you recall that, they went off kind of on the 3-point line against us. That could be our first game in the tournament, depending how Washington's actually playing well right now. So it's going to be Washington, USC. But that game, that's not a gimme to get to Illinois. To your point, I do think that Wisconsin-Illinois matchup favors Wisconsin. And the reason that it is that Illinois is a big team. They don't like to get out to the 3-point line. That's where Wisconsin will win or lose this game. That's bottom line. Mark it down. NCAA tournament, Big Ten tournament, doesn't matter. Wisconsin will win when they make threes. They will lose when they don't. It doesn't matter where it is. It'll be in a pickup basketball game with our two guards. That's going to be it. If we can make threes, I don't think, Dilly, that it's going to affect win or lose if we win or lose against Illinois. It can only help us. It won't hurt us. I think Wisconsin at this point with that big win against Purdue is basically locked in to that 5 line, potentially a 6 line. If you're an NCAA guy, you know you don't want to be the number 5 team playing a number 12 seed. You do not want that in the NCAA bracketing. Right now, the Badgers are on a 5 line. I do think they're one of at 50% of the 5s lose, Dilly. That's why. That's proven through many years of the NCAA. I think the Badgers can only help themselves by winning that game against Purdue. They now see a matchup with Michigan in the semifinals on Saturday. That's who they're going to end up playing unless Iowa goes and just gives them a game, but that could happen. Iowa Ohio State game, that's a nice game on Friday as well. This Big Ten tournament will be interesting. I don't think there's going to be a chalk winner, aka I don't think Michigan's winning this thing without a fight or without some damage. So hopefully everybody gets through healthy. That's the problem with the Big Ten is sometimes teams that are really good don't get out healthy.
We'll just take a minute here to talk about my favorite squad to watch because I watch 13, 14 minutes, then tune out. The Minnesota Golden Gophers. It's interesting. They're not a team that's going to get into the tournament, but the NCAA tournament. But imagine they're the 11 seed. So, I mean, in theory, when these, people get on the big stations and they're like, if they're just going to be the 10th, 11th place team of the big conferences make the tournament, again, it's not happening. But imagine a scenario where they were in more of a possibility of making the tournament. They get a game that they should win in Rutgers, and then they play UCLA, another team where you think they have a fighting chance against UCLA, and then they would end up with Michigan State. These 11 seed, or you could say the same for Rutgers, but that's 14. But these teams in that 11, even 10 range, it's like they have a path to pick up a win and then a win against UCLA. And then you're going and playing Michigan State, a team they've played tough already, and you have to start saying that sort of team could build enough resume to say, hey, a bubble team, the Gophers have to go on a run to be even a bubble team, in my opinion. But, again, assume a team like that has that opportunity to play more games. Is there? I assume bubble teams, they're looking forward to stacking up more wins.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a team like Ohio State probably isn't really looking forward to having Iowa in their first. I mean, they worked hard. They get into that quarterfinal game on Thursday. They don't like to see Iowa as their first matchup, right? Like they're like, of all the teams, why couldn't we have Minnesota? But UCLA is saying the same thing, saying, I don't want to see Minnesota. Minnesota's probably that team you don't want to see. That's nice that Minnesota stayed out of that Tuesday game, so they get into Wednesday. The problem with Minnesota is they don't have enough dudes. Bottom line, they play 7 guys. Unless they had some miraculous injury recovery, they're only going to have 7 guys. So I think they get through Rutgers relatively easy. They're not strong. They lost a bunch of guys to the pros from last year. Minnesota gives UCLA a game, Dilly. That is a fun game to watch on Thursday, along with actually all of them. I want to see Indiana versus Purdue. I want to see Minnesota versus UCLA. I want to see Wisconsin USC, and I certainly want to see Iowa versus Ohio State. That builds up to a nice Big Ten tournament. It gives you that, to your point, do we really need to play Tuesday and Wednesday? I don't think so. Like, you should just have it start on Thursday as normal. Iowa plays Ohio State. Washington goes and plays whomever, Wisconsin, or USC plays Wisconsin. I don't know, Dilly. It's going to be fun to watch, but to your point, I think Minnesota has a very good path into that Friday. I wouldn't be surprised seeing them play Michigan State, and they'll give them a game. Just don't have enough dudes.
Yeah, and maybe the team that's right above them would have been a great, example. But obviously I focus on Minnesota because those are our guys. Indiana in the 10 spot, their bubble-ish team and their overall record, and that's why Minnesota is, out of that question, is their overall record. They only have 5th. They're losing. They're 15-16. They're not going to be able to win enough games unless they win the tournament to get over the hump. Now, Indiana at 18-13, sure, losing record in the Big Ten. They have a path too, to beat whatever losers they play on Wednesday. And then they get Purdue, who we've kind of, been up and down on all year. Are they in that second tier? No, they're not. They're not in the second tier of the Big Ten. They're mired in the top of the third tier. And Indiana's the bottom of the third tier. So that's a winnable game for them. And then Indiana could face a Nebraska team that we're also a little unclear on. So that's an example that's right in front of us. An example of a team that has an opportunity. Just getting that second one puts them at 20 wins, which is, maybe an irrelevant threshold. But I feel like that's an important threshold when you're paring down the bubble and you're saying, oh, it's a 10th place team. But, well, they're over 20 wins. They're substantially over 500. They could play themselves into a much better bubble position, like picking up a gimme, beating out Purdue, and then potentially really make noise against Nebraska. We don't like.
I think that's a great call out, Dilly, because Indiana is better than Auburn. I'll tell you that right now. And Auburn is firmly on that bubble. I don't know why they're even that conversation. I mean, there's a few people out there, and you know who they are. They're commentators that are saying that Auburn deserves to be in. They don't. Indiana, that's going to be an in-state deal against Purdue. That's a rivalry game. Purdue is not playing well. They are giving up way too many threes in the last half of this season, and that's why they're not playing well. Plus, they have an elderly guy that plays point guard for them. Braden Smith is 700 years old. He needs to get out of the game because he's got to wear those wraps on his right arm and his left leg and all that kind of stuff. And he's got that great little shoulder move and a little dipsy-do in the lane. Seen it enough. It's a cheating play. But I like Indiana to get over the bubble, and I want to see Indiana in that NCAA tournament. I don't know if they've got enough against Nebraska, though, Dilly.
We're going to get to the SEC bracket here in a second, and you're right. Yeah, it's weird. A former coach at Auburn with a big voice on a big network with, I think his son or some family still is connected to Auburn. Like, oh, yeah, he thinks Auburn's in for sure, and Miami of Ohio shouldn't be considered if they don't win their tournament. It's like, I wonder why you think that. I mean, come on. At least just if you're going to be a jamoke, just be a jamoke. Don't pretend to be analyst. We'll try to move on. And here's a little Big Ten better than Big 12 knowledge for you. Big Ten, maybe they didn't have it up at the exact minute we looked at it, so we didn't like that. But they did get the bracket up. I'm now on the Big 12 website, looking at their bracket. And I click on the first thing for their bracket, and it's a bunch of written nonsense. Now I have to click another spot to see a printable bracket. Like, okay, too many steps on the Big 12 website to get to the bracket. They are playing. They start Tuesday as well. Their championship is Saturday, though, so they have one less round of rest for their top seeds. We're pretty firm on, hey, what happened? What's the deal with Kansas? I'm kind of jumping around here, but what the hell was going on in that Kansas game where they're just getting walked out of the gym for the majority of the game?
The trouble with Kansas is they're hot when they're hot, Dilly, and they're not when they're not. So I don't know if that really makes it any sense at all, but right now they're not. They've got some issues. They did finish tied for third with Tech and Iowa State. Texas Tech took one on the chin against BYU. Not surprising, but kind of. BYU's down there. They might be working towards the bubble as well. I haven't seen the latest bubble stuff, but boy, this is kind of an interesting tourney. I wish I could see the brackets. I don't see the brackets. I'm going to be efforting it when you do your next point here, but I don't know what the matchups are. I'm trying to still effort this dark.
Let's try to use the studio chat, see if I can post a link in there for you. The game I was referencing for Kansas was the Arizona State game. So they finished off the year beating the junk off of in their next game. Sorry, I switched to looking at this, but this Arizona State game, I mean, they were down 20 at the half. And it's like you're getting blown out of the gym. And it was bigger than, like, they came back a little to make it a 20-point game. They're getting their doors blown off. And, yeah, that frightens me a little bit on this Kansas. They came back and kicked the shit out of Kansas State. We're happy for you to finish out the year. But it worries me as a little, we've been talking a lot of Kansas, and you want to start thinking about your NCAA bracket. You might second guess a team that can get cold or uninterested or something against Northern Iowa or Queens from North Carolina. We have our list of teams already in the tournament. Probably not Queens, but teams that we've seen be gutsy from mid majors that are gamers with older players. You don't want a team like Kansas to flounder early in the tournament, in the first weekend of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. I thank you for the link there, Dilly. The top 4 seeds are who that we thought they were. Tech, Arizona. I don't know. Somehow Houston got the 2 seed by stumbling on bumbling right to the end here. 3 seed is Kansas. It's kind of a gimme here for Kansas. The fun thing that I want to just point out here, Dilly. There's going to be some fun stuff here. I see BYU going right to the game 11, which will be on the 12th against Houston. That's going to be a tough game for Houston. They're going to have to win that. But then you're going to have Houston versus Kansas, most likely. I don't think Oklahoma State or Colorado scare anybody. Neither does TCU. But so this is going to – I see the Big 12 as a big picture, Dilly. The Big 12 is just going to go chalk. The crazy part of this is the team that's a 5 seed because of the brackets here. Texas Tech is going to get upset on their first game. Iowa State's beating Texas Tech. They're going to be playing Arizona in the semifinals. I almost guarantee you that Iowa State's the 5 seed. That's craziness.
Yeah, and you mentioned chalk, but do you see BYU? Wasn't it BYU you said would get to that Houston game?
BYU's going to easily beat West Virginia. Yeah, I mean, it's not even going to be a game. BYU is a better team. I don't know what's going on with BYU, if they have some injuries, but I haven't seen any stars go down. I mean, when your best player is a freshman, you never know what you're going to get, but West Virginia is not better than BYU. I don't care what you say. I mean, it's a 7-10 seed. This is an obvious win by BYU.
I'm trying to look here for an update on how many teams from each conference are projected to make the NCAA tournament. Does it stop, again, presumably with BYU in the Big 12? Or is this a better example of a conference where you're starting to look at, West Virginia? Apparently they're 7th in their conference tournament seed, who else is getting in from the Big 12? Or are they just top heavy and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so?
Yeah, that's a good call. But Central Florida had an argument for a while, Dilly. I don't think West Virginia has any argument to get in. Maybe TCU with some of their upsets, but I think BYU is kind of the team that I think will get in before Central Florida. Let's see what Central Florida does, right? Like maybe in the Big 12 tournament here, they go and do something funky and they beat. I don't know. Do they beat Arizona in that game? I doubt it. I just don't think they do anybody any favors, to your point, because they're so top heavy. Those top 4 seeds could go to the Final Four. Any one of those top 4 seeds, if Kansas gets hot, that is the team that we were on all the way through basically the early February, right? Mid-February, and then we kind of fell off on them. But these top 4 seeds are the real deal. I'm hesitant right now, Dilly, on Houston being my favorite to win the NCAA tournament because of how they've played as of late. They've been just slightly below expectations. My expectations are pretty high, but I still like Houston. I'm not going to go off them totally, but I'm wavering.
The latest, according to whatever search engine, how many teams from each conference will make the NCAA tournament? I know these things are kind of silly because you have upset potential in these tournaments. You have some thing like Miami of Ohio that could easily knock off a bottom feeder in a big conference. But it says Big 12 8 teams. And, you just look at the standings, and that's suggesting, and this is based on recent projections, that's telling you that, TCU and UCF are probably, for sure TCU seems to be like they're a likely NCAA tournament team. BYU we already think is in, and then it's, maybe West Virginia or Cincinnati. I mean, does that suggest that if they do get if they get a win, it's hard to see West Virginia, unless they beat BYU, having a shot at this. And, we said 8 teams, UCF. I guess UCF is kind of, UCF and TCU is win the game they're supposed to win, and they're in? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you just kind of answered your question without answering it, Dilly. I think because UCF is going to win that game against the whoever wins. I think Cincinnati is probably going to beat the 16 seed Hawaii or whatever the hell they are. But then BYU, so really it's going to be the winner of BYU versus West Virginia. That's who I think gets that 8th seed. Because once you get into that second week, and once you get into the 12th, the third game against the top 4 seeds, it's a crapshoot. BYU shouldn't beat Houston. They just shouldn't. But bottom line, I mean, the Utah versus Cincinnati, who cares? Either one is going to lose to Central Florida. I mean, if Central Florida loses that game, then they're out. And that's BYU.
Yeah, it would most likely be Cincinnati, which is, similar record, and the 9 seed, that would be their case to get in. And we already talked a lot about the Big Ten tournament. They're projected 10 teams, and that puts, basically that puts Indiana in if they're taking the top 10 out of the Big Ten, and everybody else is pretty much flushed anyway. I don't know. USC wins several games. USC or Washington upsets their way in. Maybe and Indiana loses. maybe they leapfrog them, but it seems highly unlikely. And this
Dilly, audible. Yeah. Dilly, we got it. Before we get too deep in the next ones, we have to talk about the Marquette Golden Eagles. Did you see what they did? They proved us right here at the Audible Angle. They proved us right. You can't go running your mouth, Mr. Coach. You can't go bumping referees, Mr. Coach, Mr. Hurley. Not allowed to do that. You get technical foul, you get ejected. And oh, Nelly, Marquette stinks this year, Dilly. Marquette stinks. And they beat the number 4 team in the country? This is unprecedented unless you've been listening to the Audible Angle. Sorry about the Audible. We got to talk about Dan Hurley and their stinking UConn Huskies losing to Marquette. Come on.
I know we'll get updated rankings tomorrow, but judging on how these things work, does losing to Marquette, is there a potential that UConn goes up in the rankings by losing to Marquette?
There is a potential that, Marquette doesn't get any credit at all. They stink, and UConn was who we thought they were. This is just because, they had a bad day, so we'll give them, actually, they should move to number 3. They should, just because they're UConn. They've got some guys that play. That's a good point, Dilly. To be honest, the number 4 team losing they should be at 8 at best.
Well, this should tell you all you need to know about, again, projecting from whatever search engine this is. Big East, 3 teams. So obviously, UConn didn't win their conference, so you just assume St. John's is getting in. You'd think, and then UConn, and then Villanova, and then nothing. Compare that to, when you're thinking about UConn's, how strong they are. Compare that to, I can't even find this conference, the West Coast Conference, also projected to get 3 teams. Anybody, what do you know about the West Coast Conference?
Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and is Pepperdine playing well?
Santa Clara. Yeah.
So they're actually having a good year.
Gonzaga is 28-3 in a 3-team makes the tournament conference. So what's Gonzaga ranked? I'm just going to guess here. Either number 3 or number 5. They must be. because UConn's number 4. We know how good they are. They're number 3 or number 5, and St. Mary's has got to be 5 or 6.
Well, let's see, Dilly. I'm pulling it up real fast for you. Whoop, there they are. Gonzaga is right in the top 12. They are number 12 in the country in a 3-seeded conference with 3 teams, just like UConn, who didn't win their conference, and they're number 4. It's the most upside-down baloney horse manure I've ever seen, and that's a technical term for NCAA baloney is horse manure. And you got St. John's, who won the conference, is mired at number 18 in the country. It's just a joke.
That's great. Before, we all laugh at the Big East and UConn, and we might as well jump right to it because it could be more hilarious than that situation is the SEC. According, again, to the internet, 11 teams from this conference who does not have their bracket updated on their website because they're bums, they're making 11 teams into the tournament, allegedly, from the SEC. That means you'd have to say, well, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I suppose Oklahoma. Well, Auburn is in the conversation? Auburn, Auburn looks
Exactly.
like they look like the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and we laughed about them having, even if they win 4 games in the tournament, it's like, good work, guys, no chance. And they have almost the same record as Auburn, similarly seeded in their own conference.
If I'm being honest, Dilly, the SEC should have 3 bona fide teams in the NCAA tournament. That should be Florida, Alabama, and Arkansas. Everyone but me, possibly you, is writing off Alabama. That is one of the best teams in the country. I would not be surprised if they finish at in the Final Four. Vanderbilt and Tennessee played at number 25 versus number 24. Tennessee knocked off the toughest number 25 team in the country, Vanderbilt, who's 11-7 in conference. And this isn't because this conference is the Big Ten. It isn't. There's 5 teams ranked, Dilly, and they're 24-25. Tennessee and Vanderbilt are 4th and 5th, tied for 4th in their conference with Texas A&M, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, and Texas. Oklahoma, and then, oh, by the way, Auburn's way down there. They're junk. They're terrible. Auburn's 500. This is the worst. It's the second worst conference in the country, and the only reason is that Florida and Alabama and Arkansas play in it, because UConn in the Big East is by far the worst flipping conference, the power conference that they say, and the fact that UConn is number 4 is a joke. Florida's the real deal, Alabama's the real deal, and maybe Arkansas.
Whose ranking is, I think I know the answer here, but I think it's a close call. What's more ridiculous, Vanderbilt being ranked and just being impossible to knock out of the rankings, or UConn at 4? I think it's UConn at 4, but Vanderbilt, it's just a little weird that when we said it now for 3 or 4 basketball episodes, Vanderbilt, just amazing. And somehow, I guess maybe that's why they stayed ranked, is somehow, I'll tell you why. It's because of it's not a conspiracy. SEC Network / ESPN, they want their ranked matchups. So just keep anybody that you can even make any case for, keep them ranked. So it's ranked team versus ranked team. That's the only case I can make for Vanderbilt just being doggedly connected to the top 25, and a team like Wisconsin, they had a moment in the sun is all. And they're probably going to,
Yeah, it is a maddening deal in the top 25, and maybe we should spend less time getting worked up about this, but these matter when it comes to the NCAA committee. It's maddening to me because Virginia should be nowhere near number 13. They just absolutely shouldn't. They're not good enough to be there. And then a team, what's really maddening about it is a team that's sitting at 19, Miami of Ohio. They're undefeated. They're gonna go to 30-0. They're probably, I think they're 31-0 because they finished the regular season. Their conference tournament is starting here. We're talking about them being out, and then everybody's saying that Tennessee and Vanderbilt should be in because that league is going to get 10 bids. Like, what are we
11.
talking about? 11. What are we talking about? Miami needs to be in. I'm sick of the mainstream media making a big deal. Miami, you're in. You should be in. If you're not, cancel your NCAA subscription. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to European Premiership, something. Yep, take the whole university and move them to England. Something has to be done if Miami of Ohio doesn't get to the NCAA tournament. And I see Vanderbilt on a 10 line in the NCAA tournament. It's a joke. It's a travesty. And Mr. Steele, head coach in Miami of Ohio, you have every right to be pissed and move your entire university out of the country.
It's a logical next step. They should challenge the NCAA to keep them out by just forfeiting their first tournament game. And just say, leave us out, you sons of bitches. Now,
that's the old
you bring up
corral.
You bring up Virginia, and I know they played a tough non-conference, so that's why I think Virginia gets the respect. They played Rider, they played NC Central, they played Hampton, they played Marshall, they played Queens, NCAA tournament team Queens. You know, they played Mid-E Shore. I don't know if that's a guy's name. Erwin East Shore, maybe that is. They beat them in December, you know, so they're stringing this out. They played American at the end of December. Like, what? You rag on Virginia a little bit. Their signature win is losing to North Carolina. You know, it's like their signature win is Northwestern, I think, through December. Let's see what they beat Louisville in January, but up until that point, their signature win was beating Northwestern. Not impressive.
Dilly, here's the deal. There's only like one, maybe two teams in the ACC that matter, and that's Duke. And then Duke. Like, that's the only teams out of the ACC that matter.
What about regular Miami? Any good? Miami Hurricanes?
Nope. I mean, what it matters what you think is good. Can they win a game in the NCAA tournament? Sure. If they play like the SoCon or Atlantic Sun winner, which they probably will. You know, like they're going to play an auto bid team because they're coming out of the ACC who's getting way too much credit. To be honest, like this is every year. I'm like, why? But then NC State goes and shows me up and has a 10 seed to get to the Final Four, right? Like, so maybe there's something to it. But the ACC is light this year. They're junk. It's done. No, Miami's not good. They're not good.
Maybe our task should be, which I don't know if we have the time or the qualification. Wow, we're already 40 minutes in. You know, these single bid teams. Give me a rundown of the teams in the tournament. Queens, we've mentioned them.
Yeah, Atlantic Sun, they're the champs. That's Queens, North Carolina Queens, not New York Queens. They outlasted Central Arkansas a couple episodes ago. I was high on Central Arkansas. This is a team that got in. They might make some. They're not actually. They're one and done NCAA tournament team. Billy, the next one that I want to highlight, and we've got to talk about them, is the Big South winner. That's High Point. Look them up, Dilly. This team will make some waves. They've done it before. Last year's team. Now, there has been some turnover on the High Point roster. I think they brought in about 8 to 10 transfers and, you know, whatever, NIL guys from that team last year. But this team firmly sits in the top 10 nationally in offense. They run, and they will give teams trouble. Highlight, folks, our listeners, highlight High Point. I know I'm ruining other people's sleepers, but they are a true sleeper. The next one I need to get to. DePere's got a guy on this squad, the Missouri Valley. They punched their ticket. University of Northern Iowa. Yeah, it's the first time they punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament, Dilly, since 2016. You're going to probably remember them. In 2016, they beat a tough Texas team. A number 6 ranked Texas team at the 11 seed. You and I did. They beat them 75-72, and then they brought Texas A&M, the 3 seed that year, into double overtime. Northern Iowa has got a guy from here, Hornseth, a big dude. He's a big guy. Another big dude. He's out of DePere. He's got them playing well. You and I came in as the number 6 ranked team in that conference tournament and won it. They get to punch that. An interesting one out of the Northeast, Dilly. this is supposed to be decided tomorrow night. It's already decided. Today is 3/8. We're doing this on Sunday night. LIU is in because Mercyhurst is not eligible for the NCAA tournament because they're the second year of they're going up a division. They've got to wait 4 years. They've only waited 2. They'll be eligible in 2028. What are they doing in the conference tournament anyway? Whatever. LIU gets in. They don't care if they win or lose. They're getting in. They're probably a 16 seed.
Isn't it kind of a weird story anyway, though, or a weird rule? Like, what's the big deal if a team that just moved up makes it to the NCAA tournament? Or, I mean, it's all it is an amazing story, you know.
It is an amazing story, but that's the NCAA trying to give the benefit of the doubt to those that have been Division I programs so they don't get any of the money. That's what it is, because LIU would be screaming, being like, hey, wait a second, we deserve that money, because you do get money. You make the NCAA tournament. The last one that's in, so there's 5 teams that have already punched it. There is a game going on very shortly here, Dilly, starting at 8 o'clock. It actually is 10 minutes in. Out of the Ohio Valley, Tennessee State just dumped a over 3-decade drought. They're in. They beat Moorhead, who was the number 1 seed. Tennessee State rounds out as of right now. There's 5 teams that have got their tickets punched. I will wrap it up, Dilly, here, and then we can talk a little more. But our Phoenix, my fellow Phoenix, their dreams have been dashed in the quarterfinals of the Horizon League. They lost to Northern Kentucky handily today, but they did make it to Indianapolis. They won their first game against a pesky team out of IU, Indiana University.
Do me a favor here, because I don't want to lose my screen. Did St. Thomas, our friends at St. Thomas, Ryan Kane mentioned St. Thomas, good friend. That might have been after the show. We're talking about it. I did a great job of texting him to meet up with him at the game by forgetting about that for 4 weeks and then texting him. They're in a similar boat, though, right? And what I want you to see is, were they in their conference tournament? Because that one's coming up tonight, North Dakota versus NDSU. North Dakota finished 3rd place, presumably the 3 seed if St. Thomas was allowed in the conference tournament, because St. Thomas was finished 2nd in the conference at 12-4 conference, 24-9, and they're a pretty good basketball team. I'm just wondering if they got knocked out of their tournament, or if we could have.
They actually
similar.
Yeah, they did lose. They were actually good call. They were eligible. This is the first year that they're eligible. So they sat there 4 years. They were in there. They were the 2 seed in that conference. But that is the North Dakota Summit League. That's actually being played tonight. So that's North Dakota versus North Dakota State. St. Thomas was eligible. They got upset in that conference tournament in the semifinals. So they are not playing in the finals. It is an in-state rivalry, North Dakota versus North Dakota State tonight, 1 versus 3.
Let's go back and look at the Missouri Valley Conference again, because this is it's a little bit of a, I don't know what's called it's an excitement level because we remember University of Northern Iowa. But if you look at this conference, they've got some other teams that are pretty good. They got Belmont, who's been in the tournament. I think UIC has been in there. I was looking at I'm trying to bring it back up. The Belmont Bruins, they, that's not the team I was looking at. One of the teams in this
Bradley
conference.
University.
What's it?
Bradley Braves. They're a good team. Illinois State has made the tournament. I believe Illinois State has made the tournament the last 2 years, Dilly. Murray State has a cup of coffee in the NCAA tournament every few years. Valparaiso, we remember them with some buzzer beaters back in the day. Now the Valley is getting better, but UNI was firmly sat at the 6th seed at 11-9. They got edged out by Valparaiso. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, they're 6th. They beat Valparaiso head to head. So yeah, UNI made a run here, and this is one of the stories. This is the story so far in the conference tournament games. The UNI coming in, but there's a local touch up here for me. We actually went to school with this Hornseth's mother. That is a Bronner. That is Betsy Bronner's son. That's who's plays for UNI.
Really? A little Pocatello connection there. The other conference I was thinking of was the Big South. You mentioned High Point getting in there. Huge record, 30-4, good for them, 15-1 in conference. And Winthrop is a name that's made the tournament before. They had a good record, and I was looking at their schedule. Certainly, they had one bad loss I'm going to get to here, but they played. And a part of this comes from when we talked about the Horizon League. They played Big Ten teams early in the year and had some tough, close games. They showed they can hang. Yeah, they lost to Arkansas, but it was 84-83. They lost a 1-point game to Arkansas. They lost a couple basket game to Nebraska, and they got blown out by Texas Tech. It's going to happen like that. But a team like Winthrop, who has had tournament success, they challenged themselves. They hung in there against these super conferences. Are we sure that Winthrop wouldn't deserve to be in ahead of? I mean, we're sure they're not going to get in, but are we sure they're not better than Auburn? Or they couldn't hang with these middling big conference teams. Now, the Big Ten, again, maybe it's because there's a clear division there. It's Indiana up. That's there's a division there. You can kind of make sense of it. But, we're looking at, could they play with Villanova? Could they hang?
The answer is yes, Dilly. The problem that we have here and the way this is set up is it's quad one wins. It's not quad one close games. Like, it just isn't. Now, the thing that you're seeing, and you're reading these off, these are Big 12 teams that are on the top end. They can survive a big loss to Winthrop early in the season and still get in the NCAA tournament. But a team like Villanova, a team like Auburn, a team like Nebraska, not Nebraska this year, maybe like Washington, UCLA, USC, they're not going to play Winthrop because that loss is the difference between them getting in if they do what they have to do in the Big Ten. So you see this Winthrop is going to challenge themselves against the Dukes, against the Kansases. They'll play them early in the year, but because they're pretty sure they're going to beat them. Now, if Winthrop won one of those 3 games that you talked about with Texas Tech, then there's an argument. Maybe this is on a random year, it's a 2-seed league or a 2-bid league, but by and large, High Point's that team, Dilly. Like, High Point in that, the problem with Winthrop, they probably have a pretty good team, but High Point's the real deal. They're going to win a game in the NCAA tournament, possibly 2. Mark it down. That's going to happen. High Point is a good team, and they're going to make some waves. I do think Northern Iowa as well is that other team that's going to surprise people. High Point, so far, High Point, Northern Iowa are the teams that I'm looking as sleepers. Mark it down. You heard it first here.
Miami of Ohio won't be anybody's sleeper. Have you taken a peek at any of the remaining conference tournaments that have started? Let me check the Atlantic 10 here just to see what they're projected for teams in. Atlantic 10, that's projected as a 2-team conference. Has that tournament started yet? And who can work?
A10 does not start until the 11th, so that's one of the last ones. They finish on the 15th on CBS, so that one hasn't kicked off. They won't do that until there's not a lot of teams in there. I don't know who are they projecting that's in. I got
St. Louis and VCU, and St. Joseph's is another good team, and then Dayton, and even George Mason. They got some decent teams. I'm trying to click through here quick to see. I'm not seeing. The whole Horizon League played a bunch of Big Ten teams, right? Or a bunch of. I know GB did. I know.
But nobody won them. That goes back to my earlier point. Nobody won games. Like there's no quad one wins in Horizon, and Horizon's middling. I think the UW Green Bay finished tied for 3rd, and they were like the 5 seed or some shit. They were just bunched up. The Horizon League was kind of a bunch of junk. We'll see what happens, but they're a 1-bid league.
Urben, pretend I'm dumb. It'll be like I'm talking to Brian about duck hunting. Quad one win. What's the actual definition?
It has to be. It's in the top 30 net rankings. So net is kind of that. They kind of weigh all your schedule. They weigh how many wins you have, and the team that you have to play has to be in the top 30 teams in the country in net ratings
at the time that you play them.
Correct.
And that weighs heavily in the NCAA tournament's mind. So I mean, at least for me as a total and absolute moron, that does give some some context here. There's a heavy burden on those smaller conferences. They have to get those matchups on the schedule, and they're doing that a couple years out, and they have to get it the win. They can't. They could play their whole conference schedule could be 1 loss to 1-point losses to the entire Big Ten, and then their non-conference schedule is that, and whoop-de-doo. Maybe at a hair-thin decision it matters, but
yeah, Dilly, we're having a conversation about Miami of Ohio, who's 29-0, 30-0, and they're not in the top 30. They're not in quad one for top 30 wins of net ranking. They're not there. We're talking about them. If they lose in their conference tournament, they're not going to. They possibly couldn't make the NCAA tournament. Winthrop ain't got a chance. They're not in their. They didn't win their conference. You know what I mean? Like they don't. Like it's not even a thought. It's just marked off because it's easy to do. The thing about it is there's so much parity. To answer your question, Winthrop probably could beat Kansas. Anything can happen. Virginia lost to a 16 seed. UC beat Virginia. And the next year, Virginia won the national championship. 1 year removed by losing the 16 seed, which had never been done. Anything can happen, but these teams have to win their conference tournaments. That's the bottom line. UW Green Bay might have a great team next year. Blah, blah, blah. Win your conference tournament, you got nothing to talk about. Winthrop's in that boat right now, unfortunately. I don't think Miami's in that, but I don't think UW Green Bay is going 29-0. Miami of Ohio is 29-0. Bottom line, they're 31-0. Who cares? They're in. Period. They're in.
Tough stuff for these schools that, and I guess I get the, was this me and you talking? This could be me and you. I don't know. We're talking about, if they expand the tournament further, or was that just the Miami of Ohio coach that was talking about it? Or one of the mid-major coaches. It's not about us. They don't give a shit. They're not going to start taking 2 Horizon League teams, no matter how good they are. They're going to take 12, ACC teams, for God's sakes, or 14 SEC teams.
It's the big schools making more money. It's the teams that are making more money. That's all it is. And that's because everybody wants to see Auburn because they were really good last year. Well, they're not good this year. They're just not. I'd rather see Queens. I want to see Queens out of North Carolina, that university. I want to see them win a game. That's what I want to do because they're excited. If Auburn gets in and wins the game, ho-hum, who cares? We stink, doesn't matter. Why we're even in it. I don't want to see a 10 seed in the whatever. It is what it is.
What are we missing here, Herbs? Anything else to get us fired up? I know, you turned me around a little bit. I'll stand by my, maybe I overblew my opposition to conference tournament excitement. It just, I do think we made a case on some of these. It's going to be exciting and fun basketball to watch, and it is going to matter for seeding. A team that looks like an 8 seed now can win a couple games and become a 5 seed. Wisco, your guys, Wisconsin Badgers, they could win 2 games, 3 games, and move up a line. They can move up a couple lines. Potentially.
Yeah, I think that's very true for Wisconsin, Dilly. I do think they are solidly in a 5 line right now. With that win against Purdue, if they run the table and beat the number 1 team, if they could beat Michigan again and get in the championship of the Big Ten and win the Big Ten championship, the argument is the Big Ten tournament ends too late because it's literally like 2 hours before the unveiling of the tournament, maybe an hour before that. So those decisions are made. Get in the final. Maybe you move to a 4 seed. That 4 line is a big difference than the 5 line, and that could happen. Badgers have a lot to play for. You're right. There is play for in these conference tournaments, and we're going to have more storylines when we get back on the airwaves here towards the end of the week. Come Thursday, there's going to be a lot more discussion here on some of these other sleepers. Right now, it's UNI and High Point. Those are the answers to your question. I'm interested to watch what BYU does, though. That's the other one I want people to keep track of.
The Three Rivers Figure Skating Club Ice Show, Spring Ice Show, is earlier this year. Great for golf. Get this thing wrapped up. My wife does all the props. We've modified that over the years, so it's a little less construction on my end. But we've been doing that for a long time, and it's kind of funny. I say always. There was a time where it was Friday, because there's a show Friday and a rehearsal Thursday. So we're in the parking lot, sucking beers, if you can imagine this, sucking beers on a Friday, and it's 70 degrees, and we're sitting there thinking, man, we should be golfing. And this is Dad's, because there's a father-daughter show element to the show. And then Saturday rolled around, sleet and snow and rain, and only me and one other dad, who happens to be my golf buddy, and we have our golf shit in the truck. So we put on all our golf rain gear and still sat out there and drank beers in the parking lot. That's the nature of Midwest golf season. My point is, they moved it earlier this year, and it's going to affect my conference championship week availability, especially on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, basically Saturday. So we'll try to get another one in here Tuesday, which we won't know too much. And then Sunday, it's also the time you got to check the forecast, because I'll tell you what, Herbs, if it's 68 degrees on Sunday and some course opens up around here, we'll be doing a late show, which makes sense because the bracket doesn't come out till late, but it'll be after dark. We'll just say it'll be after dark.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that first show here at the Audible Angle. Tune in. We can start kind of narrowing down on some of these sleepers once the bracket comes out, but a lot is to be said, Dilly. I've got some work stuff that's going to get in the way in the next few days, but a lot to be said and worked out. Keep an eye. Just keep one eye. Just do me a favor, Dilly. Just keep one eye on the NCAA conference tournaments. It's fun to watch. The games are starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, kind of goofy hours. Who gives a shit? Most of them get an ESPN spot on the championship games. It's fun. It's fun time of year, dude. Championship week.
Let me do a quick check on the forecast for our fans that are listening and don't watch the weather. I don't know where I was getting that next weekend was going to be warm. It's not. I was looking at Dubuque, thinking of driving down there for some golf, but it's like 50s and 60s, and then it drops back down to cold weather, which is, good, because I didn't have a lot of availability for golf this coming weekend anyway. Rudy, we'll try to, this work stuff that you have coming up, it affects your availability to record, which I'd probably only be Tuesday night, but does it affect your ability to watch hoops? Are you going to be able to lock in?
Nah, see, the next 3 nights are going to be held in. Tonight I'm staying at home. Dilly, thanks for asking. Got a night home after 2 nights away. I was down in Madison, sleeping in a nice hotel there downtown. I will be staying at home Sunday night. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are hotel stays. Hilton Point's coming at you. So I will be watching. It will be basketball all the time in the hotel room, taking notes, ready for the Audible Angle when we come back on the air.
Exciting news for our coworkers that watch the program every episode. It is getting kind of late on Sunday, and I'm not going on the road like a Urben grind next week, but I am turning this computer off and firing up the work computer for a couple hours. Now, some would say maybe that a little less procrastination during the week could have affected that, or maybe, instead of going to the golf simulator on Saturday, I could have taken care of that stuff then, but I like to do it late on Sunday night. So we'll sign off for now. See you guys soon.
See ya.